Welcome back to Better Daily, where we dive into the things that make life feel a little clearer and a little lighter. Today's episode, Why Do I Keep Procrastinating? We've all been there. To-do lists staring back at us, but somehow scrolling or snacking wins again. Let's figure out why that happens, and maybe, just maybe, what that pause is really trying to say. Okay, George, I feel like I procrastinate all the time, but lately I've been wondering, is it just laziness, or is there something more behind it?
That's a great starting point because you're right. It's not just laziness. Laziness is when we don't want to act, but procrastination, it's when we do want to act, but can't seem to. And that small difference, it matters. At its core, procrastination is often our brain trying to protect us from discomfort, from fear, from the unknown. It's not about being unmotivated. It's about being overwhelmed or even disconnected from what we're trying to do.
So, it's like a built-in defense mechanism?
Exactly. Imagine you're about to write an email that really matters. Maybe it's asking for something or setting a boundary. You know it's important, but instead of writing it, you check the weather, or grab coffee, or rearrange your desktop icons. Why? Because your brain senses a risk. Even if it's tiny, like fear of being judged or fear of not being perfect. So it pushes you towards something safer, something with no emotional cost.
That actually explains a lot. It's not about being lazy, it's about trying to feel safe.
Right. And once we see that, it becomes easier to be kind to ourselves about it, because beating ourselves up rarely fixes the problem. More often, it adds another layer of stress.
Okay, so if it's not just about being lazy, what are some of the deeper reasons we procrastinate?
Good question. Let me break it into a few common themes. One of the big ones, perfectionism. It sounds like a strength, but often it's a disguise for fear. When we think something has to be perfect, it becomes too risky to even start. We say things like, I'll begin when I feel ready, or I need the perfect setup first. And suddenly, days go by.
Yeah, that hits home.
Another one is fear of failure. Sometimes just the possibility of not succeeding is enough to stop us cold. It's safer, emotionally, to do nothing than to risk trying and not being good enough. Then there's decision fatigue. If you're juggling too many tasks, your brain starts to short-circuit. Even simple things, like starting a report or answering a message, feel like climbing a mountain. And let's not forget emotional avoidance. We might avoid certain tasks because they bring up discomfort. Maybe the task reminds us of something unresolved, or just makes us feel exposed. So we numb out, not with bad intentions, but with habits that feel safer. Scrolling, cleaning, snacking. Just one more episode.
So it's not the task itself, it's what the task brings up inside of us?
The brain doesn't procrastinate because the task is hard. It procrastinates because the task is loaded. And what's wild is, we often don't realize this is happening. We just feel stuck or frustrated with ourselves. But underneath, there's usually an emotion we're trying to dodge. Even something as small as self-doubt can be powerful enough to create resistance.
So what do we do with that? How do we not get trapped in that cycle?
That's where awareness begins to help. The moment you stop judging yourself and get curious instead, that's when real change starts to open up. You can start noticing, what am I avoiding right now? What does this task bring up for me? It doesn't instantly fix things, but it makes space for choice. And from there, tiny shifts can begin.
So George, I've got to ask, what about those days when I look super busy, emails, cleaning, planning, but somehow nothing important gets done? Is that still procrastination?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I like to call the illusion of productivity. You're technically active, but avoiding what really matters. And here's the tricky part. It actually feels productive. Because your brain is getting a little dopamine boost every time you check off something, even if it's not the thing you were supposed to focus on.
So it's like tricking yourself into thinking you're getting ahead?
Exactly. You might answer 10 emails, organize your desktop, even research something related, but the main task, the one with real emotional weight, still sits untouched. And this often happens with creative work, or anything that doesn't have a clear, fast result. Writing, building, learning something new, those take mental space and emotional energy. So our brain goes, too risky, too uncertain. Let's do something we can finish now. And just like that, boom, you're swept into what I call productive avoidance.
Yeah, that's painfully familiar. Like, I'll plan how I'm going to do something instead of actually doing it.
Totally. And planning isn't bad, but when it replaces action and repeatedly, it becomes another form of delay. Sometimes we're more comfortable preparing to succeed than actually trying. Because trying means stepping into unknown territory, and unknowns trigger fear, so we stay where it feels safe. Color-coded calendars, perfect playlists, setting up the desk. Meanwhile, the work, still waiting.
Okay, real talk. Is it actually possible to stop procrastinating forever?
Short answer, not completely, and that's okay. See, procrastination isn't just a bad habit, it's part of how our minds cope with pressure, uncertainty, and emotion. So the goal isn't to erase it, it's to understand it and work with it.
So we're not trying to fight it?
Right. Trying to fight procrastination usually backfires, because when you shame yourself for putting things off, you add more pressure, and your brain goes, yikes, even more stress, time to escape again. But if you say, okay, I'm procrastinating, what's going on here? You create space. You're no longer the enemy. You're just someone trying to figure it out.
That's honestly a big mindset shift.
It is, and it leads to better strategies, like instead of forcing yourself into a giant task, you break it into one tiny, no-pressure step. Let's say you need to write a report. Your only goal? Open the document. That's it. It sounds silly, but it works, because you're removing the emotional wall. Once you're inside the task, it often flows easier than you expected.
So, momentum really matters?
Exactly. Action creates clarity, and clarity builds confidence. But again, this isn't about hustling harder, it's about being kinder to yourself, so the fear loses its grip. And when you build that pattern, noticing resistance, meeting it gently, taking one small step, you don't eliminate procrastination, but you stop letting it control your life.
George, earlier you mentioned that procrastination often hides deeper emotions. Can you give some examples of what that actually looks like?
Definitely. This is where things get really interesting. Let's start with shame. It's subtle, but powerful. Sometimes we avoid tasks not because they're hard, but because we already feel like we're not good enough to do them. So just looking at the task brings up that old, heavy feeling, and our brain says, let's just not go there today.
Like fear of confirming a negative belief about yourself?
Exactly. It's not about the task. It's about what the task represents. Another big one, resentment. We procrastinate on things we don't feel aligned with. Maybe it's something we agreed to out of guilt, or something we're doing to meet someone else's expectations. That emotional pushback, it builds resistance. There's also grief or even just tiredness from pretending. If you've been performing all day, being the reliable one, the responsible one, you might procrastinate simply because you're emotionally exhausted.
Wow, that's not the stuff people usually talk about when it comes to productivity.
Nope, but it's the stuff that drives it. One more I'll throw in. Fear of identity loss. Let's say someone's been stuck in a comfort zone for a while. Starting that new project, changing careers, launching anything creative, that might mean letting go of who they've been and stepping into something unknown, and that's terrifying. So, again, the task isn't the threat. It's the meaning beneath the task that our nervous system reacts to.
That's wild. It's like procrastination is a symptom, not the real issue.
It's a messenger, and the more we listen with compassion, not judgment, the more we can move forward without fighting ourselves.
All right. Let's say I start noticing these patterns in myself. What then? How do I shift from awareness to actual change?
That's the golden question. And first, I'd say you're not trying to fix yourself. You're learning how to relate differently to your thoughts and behaviors. One of the best shifts? Stop making action a battle and start making it a conversation. Let's say you're avoiding writing something. Instead of forcing it, try asking, hey, what's coming up for me right now? You might realize, I'm afraid it won't be good enough. Okay, that's information, not judgment. Then you ask, what's one gentle way I could begin? And maybe it's just opening the document or writing the title.
That sounds doable. Like I'm not forcing myself. I'm working with myself.
Exactly. You're respecting your limits and your goals. Another great tool, lowering the entry barrier. Instead of saying, I have to finish this whole thing, you say, I'll give it 5 minutes. No pressure, no performance, just a short window where you show up. And here's the magic. Often 5 minutes turns into 10, then 20, because the hardest part is starting. Once you're in motion, your brain shifts.
It's like breaking the spell.
Yes, and it builds something much more valuable than discipline, trust. You begin trusting that you'll show up, and not perfectly, but consistently. And that trust makes it easier the next time. So the relationship becomes less about pushing and more about partnering with your energy, your emotion, your attention, not forcing productivity, but cultivating it.
Okay, George, let's say I do start making progress, but then I slip back, like suddenly I'm procrastinating again, hard. How do I not lose all my momentum?
That's such a real moment, man. And the first thing I'd say, slipping back is part of the process. It's not failure, it's feedback. Whenever you notice yourself falling into old patterns, it's not time to panic. It's time to pause. Ask, what's different right now? Maybe you're tired. Maybe something new triggered fear or insecurity. Or maybe you're just overwhelmed, and that's okay.
So it's more about observing, not overreacting?
Exactly. If you shame yourself, ugh, I'm doing it again, what's wrong with me? You reinforce the cycle. But if you respond with curiosity, you build resilience. Also, sometimes we confuse slipping back with starting over, but you're not starting over, you're continuing, with more awareness than before. That makes all the difference.
I really like that. It's not about being perfect. It's about staying connected to yourself.
Yep, every time you notice and choose a gentle shift, that's a win. That's how change sticks, not through pressure, but through presence.
All right, before we wrap up, can you leave us with something simple? Like, what are some small wins people often overlook, but that really matter?
Oh, for sure. Here are a few that I think are quietly powerful. Opening the laptop when you didn't want to. Writing one sentence, even if it's messy. Saying, I don't feel like it, but I'll try for 5 minutes. Taking a breath instead of judging yourself. Pausing before switching to your phone and just asking, what am I avoiding? These sound small, but they build identity. And that identity? I'm someone who shows up, even imperfectly. That's where momentum lives.
So even the tiniest step counts?
Always, because you're not just doing the thing, you're telling your nervous system, this is safe, we can try, we don't need to run. And over time, those tiny, quiet wins, they stack into something that feels a lot like trust. And that's what helps you move forward, even when it's hard.
George, this was incredible. I feel like I'm walking away with more compassion and a better lens on what's really going on when I procrastinate.
Thanks, man. And hey, if anyone listening is still in that cycle, just remember there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken, you're just human, doing your best in a very overwhelming world. Procrastination doesn't mean you're lazy. It means something inside you needs attention, and maybe the most productive thing is to start listening.
So true. And if today's episode brought anything up for you, maybe give yourself a moment after this to reflect. No pressure, just space. Thanks for spending this time with us. You've been listening to Better Daily, and we'll catch you in the next one.